Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the High Ticket Coaching and Consultant Strategy and Growth Show. Now, if you're watching this interview anywhere else but within our private community called High Ticket Client Attraction Insider Circle, then definitely come check us out. We'd definitely love to have you. That group was put together specifically for our coaches, consultants, and service providers who are serious about growing their business to that 6 and that 7-figure level. So if that sounds like you and you want to be a part of an awesome community, come check us out. Now, with this being said, I want to introduce you to one of our community members here today, Amanda Rose. Welcome, Amanda.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Awesome, you're welcome. So tell us, Amanda, what is it that you do?
Yes, so I am I'm the CEO, founder of the Infinite Power of You Incorporated, and for me, what I do in my work is I do wealth, mindset, and business coaching. I'm also a multi-published, multi-genre author. I do motivational speaking. I'm an actor, online course creator. I kind of do a lot.
Mhm. That is a lot. That is a lot. And you said the name of your business is called Infinite Power of You.
Yes.
Okay. How did you land on that name?
Um, it was funny because when I incorporated, I was like, oh, I don't really want to incorporate my name. And I was trying to think of something that would be encapsulating for all of my passions. And I think my overall mission is to help people to really up level to that next version of themselves. And while I really love business strategy, I really think it's the inner game that gets us there. So I wanted to focus on kind of tapping into that inner power and to make that name really pop. And somehow miraculously nobody had already taken it. So I took
Yeah,
it.
yeah. That's always good, right? Awesome. So in essence, so you got quite a resume there. How did it all get started for you? What was your first time when you, yeah, how does your story start off?
Well, for me, I really didn't plan on becoming an entrepreneur. I went to college for acting for film and television and creative writing. And then when I graduated, it was the 2008 recession. So I couldn't even get a job flipping burgers. Like it was just ridiculous.
Mhm.
And I'm in Canada, and our Canadian film industry really relies on US companies coming to film here. But during that time, for the first time in forever, the Canadian dollar was stronger than the US dollar, and it was for quite a while. So we didn't have film companies coming up here. So I was kind of like, my dream. It was very devastating at the time. So I had to go and get a job. And when I finally did, it was actually in door-to-door sales, which was not what I expected at
So you went
all.
from film to door-to-door sales.
Yes, it was just
Yes.
what's going on with my life. I felt like the universe was definitely playing games with me. And yeah, it was, of course, door slammed in your face, but I did learn quite a bit about, really having a conversation with people, with not instantly pitching to them when they open the door, and just being a human being. So I think that was something that was really good that's come forward from that. And from there, I don't know if you guys all remember the old Ginzu knives that like cut through the can, that they had the commercial for that.
Yeah, I remember those.
Yep. So I actually got hired by that company, and we did live in-store sales presentations. So they had a lot of household items. So I did have the knives, and then we also did mops and kind of like this weird reusable anti-fuzzy thing for your clothes. So anyway, there was a bunch of different things that we had. So I actually got to learn how to, how do you sell to like a crowd in front of you? And of course, there's so much like sales fear that comes up with that, because it's like, wow, people are all in front of me, all staring at me. I better not screw this up.
Right.
So that was kind of my introduction into the sales world. And then in 2013, I quit that job, and I was like, I really want to be at home, and I really wanted to get back to the creative roots. So I actually joined an MLM because I didn't have a business idea at the time. And so I started with fitness coaching and that kind of thing, and helping people in that department. And what I realized is I actually loved helping people build their businesses more than I liked helping people with the fitness. So
Mhm.
that evolved over time, to become my coaching business, where I really focus in on that mindset and the business strategy, and how do you really succeed building an online business. And we're so lucky we've got things like Facebook and all this connectivity nowadays. It's easy, it's so easy. So that's something that I really love. So it's definitely been a stepping stone journey to get to where we are now.
Yeah, yeah. So the question becomes, based on your journey right now, was it a straight point A to point B? How was that path?
Oh gosh, no. I really think, and this is probably true for most entrepreneurs, it's really like up down up down. We never know what to expect. part of the, big change in my business came, like my fitness business, it did okay, but it wasn't doing great. And my husband was working full time. And I remember he came home one day and he passes me this note. And I'm like, this is weird. And I open it and he was fired. And I was like, oh my God, like I don't make enough to pay the mortgage and the car and the feed us. And I was kind of like, oh crap. Like it was that kind of like do or die moment. That's what it felt like anyways. And I had this nagging feeling at that point that it was like, you have to focus on getting over your money mindset obstacles. I knew that was a big thing that I kind of avoided. And I really focused, I think as many entrepreneurs do at first, on, getting that perfect strategy. How do you show up and figure out what the millionaires do and how do you implement that? And I wasn't really thinking about the inner game so much. So that was a big turning point for me, was like, oh, okay, we've got this whole other aspect to look at. So that was my kind of wake up call. And of course we didn't have money at the time. So for me, I was just grabbing every book I could get my hands on. And the big one that was a game changer for me was Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. That one just, it clicked. And I was like, this is why I've been broke for so long. I get it now.
Gotcha. So what's the biggest lesson you learned from that book?
I think the biggest thing was knowing that it really wasn't about, figuring out the perfect strategy, but it was recognizing that you can have the perfect strategy, but if deep down there's like, oh, money is bad, and, if I've got too much money, how much taxes am I going to pay, and all that kind of panic that goes around it. That was the big thing for me, because once I dug into it and I really did the work that was in the book, I was like, oh, I secretly, deep down, not really wanted to have a lot of money. It was kind of like fear of success, fear of failure, all at the same time that was coming up for me. And I realized that when I dove into the psychological element, that, when I was growing up, my dad was an entrepreneur. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. We didn't have a ton of money. And so it was kind of a contention for argument between them. So I had this negative association with money. And it took me a really long time to realize, oh, okay, I got to peel those layers back. And then another thing was, being that I trained to be an actor, and everybody had told me at the time, oh, what's your day job going to be? And, all of that kind of stuff. And that had also made an imprint that, I'm going to be broke, but I'll be broke doing what I love. And I had to change that. I had to go.
That's the best, right?
Yeah.
That's the best. Just being broke, doing what you love. It's like, man.
No, I want to be doing what I love.
Okay. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I interrupted you, but I just had to throw that out there. But go ahead.
It's good, because I think that's an interesting thing that comes up for us, because I think there's a lot of sayings, of course, that we're all familiar with. Money doesn't grow on trees. You have to work for your money. And I really think that gets stuck in the subconscious mind. And even though consciously we're like, yeah, I want to be a millionaire and, have the yacht, whatever else it is that we tell ourselves, deep down it's like, oh, but what if people only want me for my money? And oh, what if this happens and that? Because the brain likes to spin all these stories. And that's definitely what got me caught up and had held me back for so many years. And it was really the aha moment for me. So what was interesting is, we went from this place of like, he had lost his job. We'd only had so many months of, savings to kind of fall back on and, keep things going. And what if he didn't get another job? And it was interesting because implementing all the mindset stuff, everything shifted right away. Like all of a sudden, people were showing up going like, hey, can I buy from you? Can we do this? And I was like, this has never happened before. I've always had to be the go-getter. So it was like this really interesting change. And more than anything, like learning that mindset and the manifestation, we ended up manifesting over 6 figures in 6 months. It was just like that was the missing piece all along. Yeah. And then that was the catalyst for me to get more into like, I got to tell everybody about mindset.
Yes. This is my mission now, right? I love it. But and that's so fascinating you said that as well, because we're joking around here, but that's the real truth, right? I know when I was first starting my business, right? So I knew that the place, my goal was to get up to like the $100,000 per month mark. And I did get there, but I realized when it came time to like, how did I get here? I started realizing that a lot of the stuff that got me here it wasn't although the techniques, all those things, they were good, but it was more based on those internal, like there's something internal that's going on that's preventing, that was, at least from my perspective, that was preventing me from getting the money. It was so fascinating because I remember going through my business on my own journey, when I got into situations where there was times to get money, there was times to do this, there was times to do that, and the money showed up, because the money, it's like they always say, it's always there. You just had
Yeah.
to be ready for it, right? So everything was showing up, and it was almost like I was talking myself out of getting the money. I was talking myself out of this. I was talking myself out of it, but it wasn't until, as you said, through whatever process I realized there's a whole bunch of different techniques, and everyone finds their own. But once you're able to figure out what's causing that, and once you're able to limit that stuff, all of a sudden, it's like the money just shows up. It's like, has this always been here the whole time? Like, why is it now showing up? But the crazy thing is, it's been there. It's been like waiting for you, right? Which is
Yeah.
fascinating. Yeah.
I
So
think it's really interesting, and I think it's, for me, I loved learning like why does it work, because I know when I got into teaching manifestation, especially, there's always the people who are like, that doesn't work for me, and it's like, but wait a minute, this works for everybody. And then we had to kind of, for me, I was like, okay, so why does it work, and why does it work without fail? And so I liked really getting into like the psychology behind it, and then the quantum physics of how it works, and having that full understanding, I think, is so important, because as human beings we can be like, you know, prove it to me, and you know,
yeah.
we want to know it works before we dive in and put our time and energy into it. And so I think it is really interesting, because psychologically we're, you know, we're holding ourselves back for some reason, whether it's, you know, oh, what are people going to think of me, or what's going to happen if that happens, and you know, that whole fear-based stuff that comes up. And then when we learn about, oh well, it's not just saying you want $1 million or whatever it is that you want, but it's really aligning with it in an energetic format, and getting your subconscious mind to want it too, so that there's this alignment going towards it, and we're like, no, I really want this, and it feels good, instead of, well, that will be great, but you know, probably not going to happen.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a conversation so many of us are having all day, like on a day-to-day basis. Like we have these big goals, we have these dreams, but then we're not. Everything we do, it just doesn't seem to align, right? And I love what you said, which is you just got to get aligned to the process, figure out what that energy. Because I was talking to my friend, and her whole premise, she's into the quantum physics and all these different types of things, and but um, but it's the truth, really, when you really think about it. We're all energy, and everything has a certain frequency, and if you could just figure out, okay, what's the frequency that is going to attract what it is that you want, and align with that, all of a sudden, and be okay with it, because that's a big thing. You could get alignment, but then the minute you realize it's starting to happen, you kind of disconnect. But you could find the alignment and just be with that. That's where that the results show up, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's really interesting too, is the, as you mentioned, you can slip out of alignment. And I think one of the things that is really interesting is when you think about, you know, successful people and how they think. You know, we work on who we are. Like, I think the growth journey is really big for entrepreneurs, and becoming very successful. And when you do that, you know, instead of going, oh my God, huge problem, that's scary and intimidating. You know, problems don't even get perceived as problems anymore. It's like, oh, okay, it's a little obstacle. So how do I approach this? Because we become solution oriented instead of problem oriented. And I
Mhm.
think focus is one of the biggest things. Is how are you going to see it? Because everything we can solve, you know, everything we can find a solution for, but it's, do you think you can? You know, and I
Mhm.
think it's, you know, whether you think you can or you think you can't, either way you are right. You know, I love that quote. I think that one's very apt.
Hmm. Love it, love it. So what's in your toolbox? What secret weapons do you have that you're keeping from us, that I'm going to get you to reveal to us today or here? Huh?
You know, I think really, you know, in terms of success for me, anyways, you know, having a really stable morning routine and consistency. I mean, that's everything. Because I know people always ask me, like, I've got 12 books published. I have over 30 courses. Like, I create a lot. It's what I do. And I know people are like, do you sleep? And I'm like, well, I only actually work usually 4 or 5 hours a day. Like, I don't work a lot. And, you know, my secret weapon is show up consistently every day. You know, if you want to write a book, write for 30 minutes every day, but every day. Don't take a day off, because then you'll take a week off and you'll take a month off and you'll stop. Like, it's every single day, show up and do a little bit towards your goals. I think that's the biggest thing that I can impart on people is, you know, that's the takeaway, is it's every single day. You don't, you know, run the it's not a race, it's a marathon. So showing up, and that's the consistency. And then the mindset element, every morning without fail, like my morning is my time. I don't even work in the morning most of the time. It's like I get up and I do gratitude practices, I do visualization. I read from my favorite mentors. If I'm taking a course, I usually make time for it then. And, I exercise in the morning, and I really just make it me time. I get myself set up so that I'm so pumped up for the day. I'm like, yeah, let's do this. I feel amazing. And then when I do interact with people, my energy is so sky high. They're like, I don't know what you're doing, but I want to be a part of it.
Whatever you have, I want some of it as well too. I'll have what she's having. Right. Awesome. That's so powerful. So how with the mindset stuff, how long do you spend per day? Is it like an hour, half an hour? How much time do you typically spend on this?
It does vary a little bit, but for the most part, I usually have about an hour for mindset in the morning and then an hour for fitness. So I don't know whether you want to count the fitness as my mindset part too. It's my me time. So it's about a 2-hour section all in all that's kind of carved out for me to just get my body
Mhm.
and mind right for the day. I don't always think everybody needs that. I mean, you could do a really great 20-minute workout, and you can be brushing your teeth doing your affirmations. It doesn't have to take a whole bunch of extra time, because I think when we're getting started as an entrepreneur, especially if somebody's working like a corporate job full time and trying to get their business going, time is the big thing. They don't have a lot of extra time. And I don't think it has to, for me, I have the luxury at this point. I work full time for myself. I can take that whole morning for me. But when we're getting started, it's, while you're brushing your teeth in the morning, make a list of 10 things in your head that you're grateful for. Maybe it's the running water coming out of your tap that's, clean and safe to drink, or the fact that we've got indoor plumbing and we don't have to use outhouses. That's pretty nice.
Mhm.
Little things like that just, make us happy and feel good for the day. And, even, you're making your breakfast, well, then go through your affirmation list and, take 30 seconds, close your eyes, do your visualization, and then move on with your day. And it didn't really take up any more time. So I think for everybody, it's fitting it into your schedule and in whatever way you can, because it can be done while you're doing other things, or, if you've got the luxury of time, you can just sit out in the sun and have fun doing it. And it really just depends on where somebody's at. But I always think it's doable.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. So what's the biggest over the past maybe couple of weeks or something? Have you had any type of big breakthroughs, big insights in terms of just what's happening in your life and your business that you'd like to share?
Oh, it's such a good question. Because I think we're always having those moments, that are just those really good inspirations. And I think one for me is being even more conscious of who's in my space. I think one of those things that probably most people have heard is, you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And, I did not want to believe that the first time I heard it. I was like, there's no way.
Yeah.
And
Like
of
this is a
course,
cool. Is like this is a cool guy right there, man. I mean, his life is crap, but that's a cool guy. That's my friend, right?
yeah, exactly. And I think that's it's interesting too, because I think a lot of the times we're like, I don't want to rearrange my friends list. And, I never think we have to necessarily cut somebody out of our lives unless they're truly a really toxic person to us. But sometimes it's making sure, well, find a mentor who you spend a lot of time with, who's going to lift you up, or connect with other entrepreneurs who have big vision and big goals. And I think especially because we do things that most people don't do. We take risks in our business. We don't have the stable paycheck. Now, the offset of that is you can make a heck of a lot more than a stable paycheck, but there's the fear because it's the inconsistency and that kind of thing. So I think a lot of people are like, you're crazy when you do your own business. And I think we need those right people around us. So for me, one of my things recently is just filtering out even people who I don't necessarily spend a lot of time with, but especially being on social media a lot, people who they've got a negative energy or anything like that, I just don't want it in my space anymore, because I know my energy is the most important thing for my business, for my clients, and all of that. So making sure that my space feels good, like even if they've got a great message, if it triggers me, if it makes me upset, I don't need to see it. I can unfollow them. And I think that's a really big thing, is making sure that we feel good when we show up, so we don't feel insecure.
I love it, love it. Awesome. That's so powerful too, because your network is really one of those things where I think the best, that's the best technique I think I've learned is if you want to change anything in your life, in your business, whatever, is just surround yourself with better people, right? Because better people, they solve all the problems. They'll mentor you, they'll give you what to do, they'll tell you all the things that hasn't worked, the things that will work, all these different things. So that's one of the biggest, everyone is looking for the shortcut, right? Program should buy what thing, and I realized the best shortcut is the network. Like figure out, and the best way I like to do it for myself as well too is I always have this spreadsheet I keep, and I kind of organize all of the individuals I kind of surround myself with, and I'm always trying to figure out how do I find better and better and better people. So they probably, most of my friends don't know don't know I do that. They're,
Oh, buddy.
I'm back here telling myself now, my friends are now they're on like a short list, like, hey, what's going on there?
You're off the list now. You got somebody to replace you.
Oh, I just met this one person. Boop, you bumped down to number 6 now. Yeah. But I truly believe that, because I believe in life, you got to take full responsibility for everything. And if you want to progress, you always got to, if you want to get at least the unfair advantage, if you're never satisfied and you're always looking for the next evolution, you got to keep introducing new and better people into your circle as well. Awesome. Love it. Love it. So in essence, what about books wise? So I assume you read, right? You've read like 30,
Yes.
yeah. Okay, okay, good, good. Because I know you write, so I know writers. You wrote about 30 books, so I don't think you're a reader or something like that. I was just joking. I was just joking. But you said you wrote 30 books.
No, I've got over 30 courses, but I do
Oh,
have over
30
12
courses.
books.
Okay, 12 books. Okay, okay. When that number came out, I was like 30 books for a second. I was like, goodness. But you wrote 12 books?
I do, yes.
Holy goodness! Like how much?
I've always loved writing, so it's one of those things that's just very natural for me to want to communicate that way.
Like how do you write? Do you like do the whole speech to text thing, or do you like actually type like or write in a how do you doing?
I prefer typing. It's just always been the way that I have written, just a good old fashioned Word document, and away I go.
So you must be a pretty fast typer then. Does when you type, is there like smoke coming off the keyboard as well too? That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah, well, maybe because sometimes I take notes while I'm on the phone with my clients, and they're like, "Damn, you're typing fast." So it could be.
Love it, love it. Awesome. So yeah, tell us what about books wise? I know you mentioned the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv
But
Eker. Yeah.
yes,
What
I
one book?
absolutely love him.
Yeah.
And there's definitely some great books that I love. I love The Magic by Rhonda Byrne. Of course, she did The Secret, and that's part of that series. The reason I like that one is because it's actually specific practices. Like each day there's here's the lesson and here's the practice to do. So it's basically like immersive gratitude for 28 days. And I think that's really important because it's easy to get kind of bored or sidetracked if we've got a very like stagnant routine. But when it's like, today we're focused specifically on relationships, and tomorrow we're focused on money, and the next day career, and the next day health, it keeps it interesting. And I think for our brains especially, it's like, oh, this is, I can get into this and it's fun. And I think that's one of the things that really helps us to grow and expand. I Gosh, I could make a huge list. I really love Entrepreneur Roller Coaster by Darren Hardy. That was absolutely fantastic. I really like how he gives that personal perspective of his journey because, of course, he was very successful very early on, and then he lost it and got it back, and it was kind of like the yo-yo. And I really think that's what a lot of us experience as entrepreneurs. Is just like kind of feel like we're getting tossed around a lot of the time until we do get that stability because we're like, aha, I finally kind of figured this out. And then the consistency with that. So how do you show up in that way, and how do you create those habits? And of course, he's all about consistency.
Hmm. Love it, love it. Awesome. So next question becomes, what about skills wise, right? What skill based on your success that you've created for yourself here today? What's one skill you'd say you've mastered that's gotten you to where you are today?
I really think for me it's the kind of art of communication, which I do think obviously goes along with being a writer, but
Hmm.
being able to talk to people and really listen to them. And that I think building relationships is one of the most important things for sales. And of course, with if you have a business, you have to be good at sales. In some regard, you need to figure out sales. So I really think being able to listen and understand clients and be able to speak their language and to show up in a capacity of, how do I help you? How do I serve you? And to learn to listen. I really think that's the biggest thing. I think a lot of entrepreneurs and, new people in business, salespeople, they're like, shut up so I can pitch. They're waiting for that moment. And I really think it's about, I need to shut up and listen to you. So I even know if I'm here to help you. I don't even know you're my person yet. So I really think that's the thing. And I love that you're laughing because it's so true. Like we've all had that experience of somebody doing that to us. And it's like, why?
Oh man, I love how you said, shut up so I could pitch. Oh goodness, man. Wow. This might be my best interview for the day. I'm sorry, previous guests, but this one takes a cake here, okay? Love it, love it. Now, tell us, what about habits wise? What's one habit you'd say that's made the biggest difference in your life?
Oh, that's a good one. I think being able to kind of tune things out and really focus on one thing at a time. And I think that's a difficult thing for us to do. Like, we know what it's like. You pick up your phone and you check your email, and before you're even done reading the first email, you got a text to go and check, and so you get distracted and do that, and suddenly your Facebook's blipping with somebody messaging you, and it's kind of that like overwhelm. We get really like hyper stimulated, and it's like, what do I click? Oh, I don't even know. So it's too much. And I think the big thing is one thing at a time. If you opened your email, finish reading your emails, finish replying to your emails, then move on to your texts. And the same thing with how we show up in our business. Like one of the things that's really important for me is, if I show up and I'm like, okay, right now I'm working on building this course, close Facebook, close this other stuff. This is all I'm focused on for the next 30 minutes, and then moving on to the next task, because otherwise it becomes this piecemeal exercise and then it's not really effective. And I think the big thing is, if you're working on something and then you're like, oh, well, I'm going to go and check Facebook quickly. Did anybody comment on my post or whatever it is? Then you have to take the time to get back into, okay, well, what was I writing again? What was I saying again? What was I recording again? Because we don't really have the ability to multitask the way we think we do. When they've done statistics on it, we know that, we think we can multitask, but we're not really great at it.
Yeah,
So focus.
Yeah. That's so true as well. So because just like I think about just how fast paced everything is, right? So it's all like we're just becoming a society of like just quick, instant now. And it's almost like, well, it's not almost, but it's an addiction because like no human being shows up and says, man, I wonder how I could create some coffee it takes me 1 minute to make my coffee. I wonder how I could get it made in like 15 minutes or 20 minutes. That'd be like a real breakthrough, right? So no one like wants to take the longer route. Everyone is like, how do I get quick, fast now? But that also kind of hurts us so much because I think about social media to where we have all these things, everything is coming at us, and we're just so fractured where you leave your computer, you jump on an iPad, you leave the iPad, you jump on your phone. It's like you circulate through all of these devices and you're never really unplugged, right? So it's so fascinating to be able to harness that habit, that skill of that focus, being able to say, okay, here's my one thing, and just sticking to it, right?
Yeah, and I think it's really important to do it because it's just, I think one of the hardest things is as an entrepreneur, we could work 12-hour days and get very little done if we're not focused, because it's all over the place. And that's one of the reasons I accomplish so much is one thing at a time.
Oh, love it. So we're running short on time here, but if someone wanted to connect with you, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Definitely Facebook. Facebook's my jam. I love being on here. I just feel like it's a very personable platform. So I'm sure I'm going to be tagged when this is posted. So
Yeah,
feel free to
Facebook.
reach out.
Facebook. People still use Facebook. I thought it was still I thought MySpace was a big thing these days.
Oh gosh, yeah, I feel like we're going back in time. It's good. Somebody mentioned Napster the other day, and I was like,
That's
forgot
old
about
school.
Napster.
Love it, love it. So you said Facebook. So Facebook, what about websites? Do you have any freebies? Do you have any, what do you have going
Yes,
on?
absolutely. One of the things I put together is a mindset routine for the morning and evening. So it actually walks through, well, how do you do a gratitude, list, and why is it important? How do you do visualization and meditation? And so it kind of walks through that whole thing. So that's an ebook that I give away, and I'll make sure that I get that link to you so everybody can grab that. And my website is amanda-rose.mykajabi.com.
Awesome. Love it, Amanda. Well, hey, thank you so much for making the time to be here today. I know you're pretty busy. As you said, you have about, what, 30 some, 50 books or something you've written, and you're writing another 100 more. Nah, she has 12 books written. But I know you're a pretty busy person, so thank you so much for making the time to be here today. Do you have any final thoughts before we end?
I think the big one is, my favorite quote is master your mindset and you'll master your life. So I think that's the best closing line I can
Mhm.
give.
Love it, love it. Well, hey, thanks again, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Awesome. Have a good one.